Welcome to this edition of Small Business Saturday. I'm sitting here with the CEO of Elmwood Zoo, Alzone, who over the last year to date, almost exactly 1 year, has managed to navigate a pandemic, keep the zoo open the majority of the time, still have people here, raise money. I mean, Al, you talk about what you have done. What a tremendous job. If you think about, is this the most trying time you've ever seen in the history of your career?
Lance, it's been unbelievable. You know, watching a lot of business owners, a lot of friends I have in the industry, you know, my background's food and beverage, knowing how hard it's been on the restaurant and the entertainment industry, knowing how hard it's been on businesses and watching them close down over the course of this year, I have to commend all the people here at Elmwood, all the staff, all the supporters like yourself, our board of directors, for pulling together and having a great year here at Elmwood Park Zoo, making it happen. It's hard to say you had a great year in the middle of a pandemic, but we figured things out.
So let's talk about that, Al. You know, first of all, Al, before you jump in that, why don't you tell them who you are real fast, because not everyone knows what the Elmwood Zoo is, and not everyone knows who Alzone is. And full transparency, Al's a very close friend of mine at this point in our life. He's been a client for probably 6-7 years now. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Born and raised here in this community. You know, I started here in Norristown with the Jeffersonville Golf Club right up the road. Used to have a sweet spot for me when I was a kid. I went to school right up the street here. My grandfather would walk me to the zoo as a child, you know, to entertain me until my mom and dad got home from work. So it was a passion thing for me. I was driving down the city. It was stuck on 76 in traffic, and I was listening to KYW, and I heard at the end of 2011 they were going to close the zoo. And this was at a time when I was a caterer and I had the business going. And I instantly called the next day and said, you know, let's find a way to figure this out. Again, Elmwood Park Zoo is so important to Montgomery County. It's so important to Norristown. I didn't know a lot about animals. You know, I'm a director of a zoo today, and I know a lot about it. But I wasn't an animal guy in the beginning. I was a Norristown guy. I tell everybody I'm Norristown before I'm the zoo. And it's important for me to get involved in something like this, and I would have never guessed for it to do what it did.
You know, it's funny because small business people out there, you're sitting there watching this show, how does the zoo correlate with you? Well, Al took this zoo from doing a few million a year to quite a lot of millions now. And we're going to talk about how you got there and how you scaled there. But the zoo is no different than if you own a brick and mortar and you've got to get people through the door. During this pandemic, you know, let's be realistic, in the very beginning, I can't imagine a lot of people were coming here.
Absolutely. It was shocking to everybody. But to comment on what you said there, Lance, a lot of nonprofits run them like nonprofits, and they don't quite realize that we're a business just like everybody else. And we have to do the right things to figure it out in order to stay open. We're 97 years old this year. And for many of those years, Elmwood Park Zoo struggled. But we're in a better place today because we are running it like a business. We're looking at things just like you look at your business and your growth. These are things that we need to do in order to stay successful.
So let's talk about that. The pandemic hits, things are going around. We're at the Jaguar exhibit here. We thought it would be suitable here. You got the lion here. I'll whoop that little Jaguar's honey, but that's besides the point. You know, let's talk about that first. The first thing you started doing is saying, hey, listen, how do we go from just a brick and mortar to when you start doing things online like Easter baskets, gift cards, donations? Can you talk about that?
Let me give you a little bit of the build up. So when I started here, Elmwood Park Zoo had about 114,000 visitors. 114,000 people walked through the gates. That's in 2011. We now have close to 720,000 visitors a year. Okay? We did it by gaining the respect and the trust of not only our consumers, but our donors and our supporters. And we showed that we are the real deal, that we are just as good as any facility across the country. And I have to tell you, we're 20 minutes away from the oldest zoo in the nation, the Philadelphia Zoo. And I love the Philadelphia Zoo. But what we have here is amazing. We love Montgomery County. What we have here to be able to be the zoo for the people that live here, yes, the Philadelphia Zoo, other zoos, they rely a lot on travel and tourism. We do too. I'm a member of the Valley Forge Travel and Tourism Board. I get how important that is. But we are the zoo for the people that live here. Guests that come to Elmwood Park Zoo come 3 to 4 times a year, when they may go to another zoo maybe once every 3 to 4 years. So it's awesome. We became a staple in their community, and we've been able to grow it. So we were able to build our membership up. Our membership went from 1,300 members to 64,000 memberships.
Wow.
right? So that
I
relates.
got to ask this question: how did digital marketing help that numbers?
Well, I think we're going to get into that, right? But it was a huge part. I remember the first conversation I had with you, and I said anytime they search what to do, what zoos are in the area, anything in the entire Philadelphia region, I want Elmwood Park Zoo popping up first. What do we have to do to be recognized? A lot of times in nonprofits and businesses, people don't understand the importance of the website. They don't understand the importance of the optimization. It's voodoo. I say to you all the time, it's voodoo behind the curtain. But you know what? The truth is in the pudding. We're seeing the results every day here at Elmwood Park Zoo.
So Al, for the small businesses out there watching this right now, you take your Google My Business serious. You want people to feel secure. You said to me earlier the consumer's more educated today than they were a year ago due to the pandemic,
Absolutely.
where they're going, what they're traveling. So you and your team worked and you said, okay, on our Google My Business, we're going to make sure that you know you got to wear a mask, that you got to have a temperature check. What are some of the other things you did and put it out there publicly through Google saying, hey, staff wears masks? Can you talk about those type of things?
Lance, when the whole country, when the whole world had to figure out how to put these things on, it drove us all nuts. Whether you're in support of it, whether you're not in support of
100%.
it. I work out every day with a mask. It almost kills me, okay? But it is making me stronger. It's making me figure it out. I want to be out there, right? I want to be out there. I want to go shopping. I want to do the things that I want to do. I want to come to the Elmwood Park Zoo. So I have to figure it out. We have a lot of important, passionate staff members here at Elmwood Park Zoo. A lot of important, passionate staff members. We have to make them feel that they can trust us to bring 500,000 people through these gates in the middle of a pandemic. When other zoos in our area are closed, when other businesses in our area are closed, what are we doing differently? Our Director of Operations, Eric Donovan, you know him well. He put together a plan that was used throughout the whole state of Pennsylvania. We're involved with a council called the PA Zoo Council. We consult with all the other zoos in PA, and there's 6 or 7 of us. And we worked hard at putting plans together, making sure our consumer felt safe. What we needed to do, you know, obviously the mask, the time ticketing. The consumer is smarter today. You're smarter today, I'm smarter today in regards to what we need to do in our business and in our personal lives. But our consumer in the beginning, they would go online and they would see that the tickets in the morning were sold out. We have a lot of young kids that come to the zoo.
Well, let's talk about that, because you had to change your whole model where you just sold tickets and you came and you showed up.
Yeah, 100%. We had an online ticket sale, and it was good. It was nowhere near where it is today. It's great today. Now I have one person available because there are still people that struggle with purchasing the tickets online and stuff like that. But even I don't want to say the elderly, even people who are not mobile and computer friendly are figuring it out.
They have to figure it out, and that's where I was going with it. You know, you led the way, and I say this all the time. People don't realize this. I'm friends with you, and this is just a fact. Al goes around the country and trains private zoos how to make them better, how to organize things. You and your team, which kudos to you, right? But you led the way here with making sure you take that information and you got it out to the public to make them feel good about coming here through Google, which I don't think many brick and mortars understand how you could do that. You're constantly putting it on your website, what you're doing, what's changing on your Google My Business. Everywhere your brand is social media, you're building trust. Can you talk about why why it's so important to you?
I can tell you the most important piece to that question is having a partner such as yourself and your company to help guide us for that. Because I got to tell you, just like I didn't know about animals, I didn't know about any of those things that I needed to know. So it is important for businesses to look into companies like yourself to guide them. We need to let the experts do what the experts do. I say it every day. But yes, we're a member of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. It's the AZA. There's close to 30,000 animal collective facilities across the world. There's only 230 that are AZA accredited. It's the highest level of standard. But to be able to shoot an email to any other director in the zoo world, to be able to talk to the director of the San Diego Zoo, the mega San Diego Zoo, and I'm from little Elmwood Park Zoo, it's awesome to have those connections. So we designed a platform to be able to bounce questions and be able to bounce things off of. But even with that being said, there's a lot that we have to do on our own that later gets reviewed by others.
You know, we talked about this, you know, when I met you, what most nonprofits don't realize, and this is really for most nonprofits out there, is you were a big believer in digital marketing. Like, I didn't even have to sell you on it. You're like, Lance, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want. It was just a matter of what company you were picking at that time. But you knew Elmwood Zoo was going in that direction when we met. I think you were at like 100,000 visitors. You were like, we got to be at like 500,000 at least in a few years. I think you're at 700 now. Is that correct?
Yep.
That, but you doubled down on paid and organic together. And I actually told you, and you were shocked. I said, I'll get you 10,000 a month from Google being a nonprofit. I'll get you approved. And I think you thought I was bullshitting on you a little bit there, Hal, right?
No, you helped us steward that grant, and that grant has been extremely helpful to us. So,
can you talk about that to the viewers? If you own a nonprofit, Hal, the organic side and that paid side, when people are searching, and it builds your brand, trust, and people that don't know you are finding you.
So just like everything we talked about educating ourselves, I remember that year I was doing a lot of flying to other zoos and just trying to see what was out there. I probably listened to like 15 audiobooks to understand what it is that you do before I even came to the table with you. I had no clue. I knew about marketing, 100%. I have a background in marketing. I knew how important it is to market. I joke all the time. Stan Husky, my director of government affairs, says there's a reason why the church rings the bell every Sunday. It's the best marketing. You have to constantly ring the bell. Businesses forget about that. They forget about keeping themselves fresh and relevant, because just like that, the consumer goes elsewhere, right? So I educated myself slightly on it and knew that digital was the way to go. How do I get into each and every consumer? You helped me with something. I don't know if you remember it. A few years back, we were, I think, in Indianapolis at the AZA conference. 5,000 people in that room. I was in the conference room. And you and your buddy Scott, your partner Scott, helped me with Beacon Technology.
Correct.
We sent a message to everybody's cell phone to look at the best boutique zoo in the country. Everybody, at one time when I sent the message, everybody's looking at their phone. Then they came up to me after. How did you pay the conference to do that? And I said, listen, it was a lot of money. You know, I told them it was a lot of money. But
it was free. We gave you our beacons.
I know. It made everybody in that room open their phone. And it took them directly to our website. And it took them directly to what we're doing, right? We believe in ourselves. We believe in our partners that help us believe in it, right? But it's about getting out there, doing things different. You
know, let's talk about this. You know, you are a brick and mortar. And I said, even though your online sales are better than ever and you're having a great year, but you still need to I always say this to dentists, doctors, it doesn't matter what you are. You are brick and mortar, you got to put butts in the seat. You're a movie theater, you got to get people there or you just can't make money. Can you talk about how Google My Business Insights shows you and why it's so important to you, how many people are finding you from mobile and actually driving here?
Absolutely.
And coming here on a Saturday, a Sunday, which I thought was very interesting to see how many people are still doing that during a pandemic.
Yeah. You know, it's somewhat scary when you can find out how much can be tracked from an individual's purchase. But it's important. It allows us to understand what our customers need, what they're looking for, where we are weak and where we are strong and where we need to get better. So for us, focusing on how we can get out to that consumer, how can we market, we don't just compare ourselves to other zoos. Just like what you said, I'm comparing ourselves to anything that is family and child entertainment. You know, the economy is always going to go up and down, right?
Absolutely.
We know that, right? One thing that never changes, and it's why I started in a catering company instead of getting into the restaurant business, because I knew
was that a jab at me and my wife? Damn,
no. But I knew. You do catering too. I knew that there was always going to be weddings and there's always going to be funerals, right? I know at this industry, in this business, you always have to entertain your children, no matter how bad the economy gets. You have a 5, 6, 8-year-old child, whatever. If you can't take them to Disney because airlines are shut down, you still need to educate and entertain your children or they will drive you crazy. So that's where facilities like us really strive. So we compare ourselves to every bowling alley, to every movie theater. We're not just looking at zoos. We are checking and balancing what they're charging, how they're marketing, where they're marketing. And then we want to make sure we're ahead of all of that.
You know, we talk about this. Your customers are your biggest mouthpieces,
100%.
right? And you don't like take reviews lightly and you don't take testimony lightly. You want reviews, you want testimony. You're constantly asking, you're constantly pushing. And can you talk about how that helps your customers come back, how that helps your donors, how it helps people that don't know you that come here? Because I don't think a lot of brick and mortars understand still today how important reviews are for their organization.
One of the first things that I did here was I wanted to understand our consumer who was walking through the gates. We partnered up with Montgomery Community College, and we did a survey. We surveyed our guests inside the zoo, and I can't believe I'm going to say this on this podcast with you. We also surveyed outside the gates of the Philadelphia Zoo to see what their consumers were thinking. And I told you how they looked at Elmwood as a rinky, in the beginning, the first survey, they looked at Elmwood as being a rinky-dink zoo with a lot of rehabbed animals. It was good for children from newborn to like 6 or 7. And then they wanted to go to the Philadelphia Zoo for the bigger animal. So I wanted to understand my consumer. So I wanted to find things that other zoos couldn't do or didn't do. So then we added the giraffe feeding experience, right? It started to create teenagers and animal lovers and people all over that just wanted to take a selfie with the giraffe, right? Then we added the zip line park, right? Now I'm getting teenagers, right? The kids may have been here when they were 5 or 6. Now they're coming back when they're 14, 18. They're bringing their families, they're bringing their boyfriends, their girlfriends. Finding ways. We were the first zoo in Pennsylvania to have a full liquor license. We make our own beer through our partners here, through different breweries. We make our own wine. We know that the adults have to bring the kids. We do it responsibly, but at the same time, we are studying our consumer. We're finding out what they know, what they don't know, and then we're trying to make the experience better. I'll tell you something, we just launched. We are the first pet-friendly zoo in the entire country. It actually starts this week. We're the first pet-friendly zoo in the entire country. What's that mean? How come other zoos have not started letting dogs in? How come, right? So what they said to me in the beginning was that, well, we can't control it. They can bring in disease, they can bring in a lot of things, they can scare the animals. That's all true. That's all true. A lot of these animals are rescued. A lot of these animals are they're imprinted, which means that they may have been rescued by a human at one point, and they have some qualities where they can't be re-released into the wild. All that's true, but I can't control the vultures, I can't control the raccoons, I can't control the feral cats and what they bring in, but I can control the amount of dogs that come into the zoo, and I know that people love their animals. People love their pets. In a lot of situations, their pets are their kids. So we went against the grain. I've gotten calls from 35 zoos in the last 2 weeks when we've announced this. But we went against the grain because we have an amazing team of people willing to figure it out. Willing to figure it out.
And that's where, you know, on this Small Business Saturday, I want you really to take it from Al's point of view. What he did to keep his brick and mortar, and even though it's a zoo, it's still a brick and mortar. He literally said, okay, let me first build trust and get the things in order for health and safety. But he didn't just keep it internalized. He put it everywhere, social media, Google My Business, his website, email marketing. He did it so people, and it didn't happen overnight. You had to stick with it to build trust to get people back in here. Then he said, okay, once my customers are in here, I'm going to start getting testimonials and videos and putting that everywhere. And you doubled down on organic and paid, keeping it going to feed the machine. And it seems like it's, and you also went to an online presence to make it a better experience, a frictionless. I mean, you figured out a way in a year, to date almost, to make your brick and mortar, your zoo, rise again from the ashes.
One of our biggest things in the holiday season, during the off season, is our brunch with Santa Claus. Your family's been to it.
Every year.
It's an awesome thing, right?
Absolutely.
Our first 2 weekends, we're barely getting ticket sales. We weren't even getting ticket sales. We did a video during one of the brunches about how spaced out all the tables were, about the safety, about how we put Santa up on a sleigh and the family would stand 6 feet in front and we'd get a really cool photo. We sold out every date after that after that started hitting the social media. And instantly.
But would anyone, if someone would have told you that, would you have believed it 5, 6 years ago?
I think I did believe it 5 or 6 years ago.
To have that kind of result, one video on social media, probably a few $100 paid behind it, and boom, you're sold out.
Just like sold out, sold out.
I mean,
our wild lights this year was more attended this year than last year, which was the best year we ever had. That's our holiday light program. More attended this year because of our videos, our ticketing, our social distancing, and people wanting to get outside.
I mean, and that's what you have to think about for small businesses. Figure out a way to get creative, but you got to communicate to your audience. You got to communicate to your people. Alzone, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to follow me at Lance Bachman on Instagram and Twitter. Follow me on Facebook at Lance Bachman Digital. And every Thursday we drop a new podcast. Don't forget to listen to it. We're giving out great content. And remember this is the time to build your business right now. Let's effing go, everybody.